It's Wednesday.
Good morning.
It's cold.
Morning has broken.
We're your consecrated hosts.
I'm Father Jeff, consecrated by Holy Orders.
Jonathan, consecrated by baptism.
How's it going?
Can we go back to the weekend?
It's a little cooler this week, but you know what? Today is supposed to be better than yesterday.
I'll believe it when I feel it.
We'll see. Oh, you know what? This is, as I said, this month is the transition month. We're transitioning from summer into fall, so we're going to get these. This is what's going to make everyone sick. It's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold.
Don't you be blaming this my birth month on all these sicknesses and transitions and all these things.
Oh my God.
It is the perfect month.
Your birthday, I believe, is the 21st.
Yep.
St. Matthew.
That's... Mm-hmm.
St. Matthew's. So it's the Feast of St. Matthew on September 21st. That's what we will be celebrating. The Apostle.
You won't be celebrating anything because it's your day off.
It will
that
be
is
day off.
That is how great this month is. For my birthday, I gave you the day off.
So you are the very, very tail end of summer.
Usually.
Like the last day or two of summer.
It always falls, usually maybe a day or two after. But sometimes it's fallen right on.
No. Does fall begin on the 21st sometimes?
Sometimes. Mm-hmm. It is always right around there.
It's very close. So you get the fall equinox sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Do you ever try to balance an egg on its tip on the equinox day? I did that once. I don't know if it's only on the equinox when you can do that. That's the myth. The story is they say that you can balance an egg on its narrow tip on the fall and spring equinoxes, and it will balance there.
Science teachers, get on it. Let us know.
It might, but you might also be able to just balance it any time if you're just patient. And I think it's a way to get kids to be quiet and do something very focused. So but they start throwing the
That's
eggs.
How great my birthday is. No, is that it had to fall near or on the equinox.
We've moved past that.
No, it's still coming up.
Still coming up. Today, however...
September 9th.
Today, however, is not your birthday. Today is the feast of St. Peter Claver. Peter Claver is... he was back there in the late 1500s, early 1600s. He was a Spanish Jesuit.
So Claver is a Spanish name?
Well, it was Claver y Cordobo or something like that.
Cordobo?
Cordobo. The accent is on the last syllable.
Cordobo.
Yes.
Claver. I don't even know where Claver...
Pedro.
I have no clue where it come from.
Yeah. These are the questions I can answer.
But he was a Spanish Jesuit.
Back then, it was really the missionary. It was the time of the missionaries, the 1600s. So the missionaries were spreading out all over the place. Peter Claver came to the Americas, and he was ministering in modern-day Colombia. And basically, he's known for the work that he did with the African slaves that were brought over and just dumped on the shores and then sold on the shores of the New World and sent out. So his missionary work really was to the poorest of the poor, the least of the least, the slaves of humanity. And it's beautiful to read his writings about how he talks about these people who are brought over, many of them just clinging to life because the voyage was hell in a vessel, packed in as tightly as possible in the lower banks, and then there are the lower decks, and then brought to the shores, and they don't speak the language, they don't understand anything. And even Peter, he writes in his journals that these people didn't know what we were saying to them, but they understood the language of charity. They understood the language of love. And so he said, all we could offer them was just to pick them up off of the ground and put them on, broken bits of pottery and char, just to get them out of the mud onto something dry, even if it was harsh and sharp, and to cover them with their own cloaks, and to build little charcoal fires to keep them warm and try to breathe the breath of warmth back into them as many were dying. I mean, it's just his heroicism. He was one of those saints that probably baptized over 300,000 slaves that were brought to these shores. It's said that he heard the confessions of over 5,000 African slaves every year for 40 years. I mean, this man just dedicated his entire life to caring for the people that everyone else was treating as property, that he saw the divine spark within them.
Wow.
And that's why he's really known as the patron of race relations, which, holy moly, is something we need to invoke today. And this is why the Bishops' Conference has called upon us, Catholics and people of goodwill, to take today, the feast of St. Peter Claver, and to treat it as a day of prayer and maybe even fasting for race relations and the improvement of them and the vanquishing of racial injustice, particularly in the United States, but throughout the whole world. That we really need to we need to see each other as human beings, people,
Yes.
and recognize that regardless of our skin color, background, where we come from, that we are brothers and sisters in Christ. And so take some time to offer prayer and penance today on behalf of all of the injustices and the work that needs to be done in bringing understanding and peace to something that is unnecessarily broken.
Yeah, I think it couldn't come at a more pressing time.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so I think
all of the stuff that goes on in the world, and you know how sad it is that it gets politicized in this election year, that it just becomes another election platform and way to exploit the pain of communities for the good of the candidates, and look at how I care, or look at where I think we need to strengthen and shore up this, that, or that thing, and it's, you know, that's not really what's going to be helpful. What's going to be helpful is if we do less talking and more listening.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, what are people's real experiences, and not to discount them, but to listen, to try to understand, and to realize that it's a broken world and we need to heal it. So whatever you can do to heal that world, do it.
Do it.
Yeah. Excellent. Did you have some cake yesterday on Mary's birthday?
Oh, come on. Of course I did. I'm not gonna wear blue socks and not eat cake.
I understand. I did too. I didn't share it with you.
No, you didn't.
You'll notice. I had guests in town.
You told me you were gonna bake a cake.
Blah, 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 blah,
and then I was just waiting, sitting there, stomach grumbling.
Well, you notice I didn't come into the office. I
was
have
waiting.
people.
I was sitting there waiting like a little puppy dog.
Well, let's move on. Chapter 9. So yesterday was, as I said, one of the best chapters, just because I think it speaks to so many people's real experience of prayer and their relationship with God, and being stuck down here and not liking it, because let's face it, who likes being in the trough? We prefer to be on the mountaintop. Wasn't it St. Peter who, when they were at the Mount of Transfiguration, and he saw the glory of the Lord, and he said, let's just stay here.
And let's pitch some tents.
Let's build some. Let's hang out and not do it. And the Lord is like, nope, we have to go down, because down here is where the real work happens. And so, I mean, that becomes a metaphor and a sign where we need to go. So let's go down into the valley, which is where chapter 9 takes us.
Yeah, it is. It piggybacks right off of the last chapter.
It does. The last chapter ended with, next week, I will give you some hints on how to exploit those trough periods. So the trough, as you remember, these lows or these desolations or whatnot, that's where God wants to do the most spiritual work within us. And that's also then where the evil one wants to attack. Because while it is a place where God can do some good work, it's also a place of weakness for us.
Yep, that's where we're most vulnerable.
We are vulnerable. It's where the greatest things happen, but it's also where temptations can creep in. All right. So, in the first place, I have always found that the trough periods of the human undulation provide excellent opportunity for all sensual temptations, particularly those of sex. Sensual temptations. I would argue that most of the 7 deadly sins, not all, most of the 7 deadly sins are temptations to the sensual. And when we say sensual, we don't mean like sexy, whatever. When we say sensual, we mean sensed, felt. Like they're feelings, satisfactions. So when we're not feeling God, what's the temptation?
I want to feel something.
I want to feel something, and I don't care what. So I'm not just going to eat a piece of cake. I'm going to eat the whole cake because, it tastes delicious and it feels...
And a bite of your cake, too.
Can't eat your cake and have it, too. Or can you? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Gluttony, sloth, where you just feel like, the vegging out, the binge watching, the, whatever. It's satisfying just doing nothing and being lazy. Anger, it feels so good to punch someone in the face and to get that out.
Does it feel good to
punch
someone in the face?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I've never really punched anyone in the face. I've wanted to. And I think that's what, you feel. So feelings, when we're not feeling God, we want to feel something. Side note, when I was teaching in high school, I never understood that the phenomenon of cutting, where kids would cut themselves, literally like take razor blades or knives or sharp objects and cut themselves. Not in an attempt to commit suicide. Sometimes it would lead to that, but cutting themselves. And I studied that and read about that. And one of the things that I found out is that people do that because they just want to feel something. They've so deadened or blockaded themselves that they're not, or they're under so much pressure, stress, and tension that it's numb. And in order to this, I can no longer feel this, so I need to feel this. It's really a sign of more emotional, psychological, spiritual than anything else. So we desire to feel, and so that's where the evil one slips in. Okay. What did you note there on that first page, Jonathan? Anything exciting?
The line, the health and spirits which you want to use in producing lust can also, alas, be very easily used for work or play or thought or innocuous merriment. And it's just, I put the note on the side that is our culture today.
What do you mean?
I might have misunderstood it, but that those deep feelings, especially like the spirits which you'd use in producing lust, you can also just make it so it becomes just regular life, anything. And so the pervasive sexual culture and the way we use just drinking and partying and the hookup culture that especially high school and college age people, young adults, and older adults too. I mean, it's not just limited to those, but that is just our culture, is that where lust seems like you're going really far, that's just how you're supposed to live. It's supposed to be free with your body, and sex in our culture now has no value. Meaning it is if you meet someone today and hook up with them, so did your friend and their friends and their friends.
It's something that you do.
That's just something you do. The having one partner, or heaven forbid being a virgin until you get married.
Right.
The likelihood of a vast majority of people growing up that way, I mean, it's the minority already, but it is decreasing by the day.
Right. You're taught to do these, to engage in these things early on. I think what he's also saying there is that the feelings that we use, that the evil one uses to induce lust, are the same feelings that are also used for virtuous things. So the same feelings that you use for lust are the same ones that are experienced whenever the person is happy or merry or joyful or whatever. That it's the same. It all comes from the same place.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And so we need to take this thing that is good and twist it. And that's what he's getting at here, is that there's something good that God or that the evil one that God has created, that the evil one takes and twists. And so he wants to confuse those things in our minds. And so maybe instead of real love, we're more into the milk and water phenomenon of being in love, infatuation, puppy love. Oh, I've fallen in love. Cupid's arrow has struck me. Feeling in love and being in love are two different things. Like if I'm being in love, I am choosing the good of the other. If I'm feeling in love, I'm getting all sorts of twitterpation and hormones coursing through my body. This is the thing. If you watch Bambi, Thumper, twitterpation, he's twitterpated. That's the description. That's where the word comes from, twitterpation. If you're twitterpated, it's that feeling that he gets when he sees the little girl bunny. And then his little foot starts.
Oh dear.
Go watch Bambi if you haven't seen it.
We don't know. My kids have never seen Bambi.
It's a classic.
All I know is I'm not going to spoil anything.
That's right. It's a coming of age story. Yes. So in here, what the evil one says here is never forget that when we're dealing with any pleasure in its healthy, normal, and satisfying form, we are in a sense on the enemy's ground. Because the evil one cannot induce a pleasure no matter how hard he tries. That all the pleasures that we have, sometimes I think people think, Christians get a bad rap that we don't want anyone to have any fun. And Catholics don't want anybody to have, you're not supposed to enjoy anything. You're not supposed to enjoy sex. You're not supposed to enjoy eating. You're not supposed to enjoy drinking. You're not supposed to enjoy anything. No. In fact, quite the contrary. We are definitely a feasting people, and we want you to really enjoy sex, and really enjoy food, and really enjoy drink. We really want that. Really.
Enjoy them to their fullest.
Exactly. What it really means, not to abuse it for the sake of pleasure. And that's what the evil one wants to do. All we can do as evil ones, devils, is to encourage the humans to take the pleasures that God has produced at times or ways or degrees which he has forbidden. So, at times, to use sex outside of marriage. In ways, in perverse and kinky sort of things. Or in degrees. Too much. Always. Often. Whatever. When both parties are not consensual. That to do this, and that's when it becomes sinful. That's when it no longer is good. Where we've tempted him out of the virtuous and into a path that... And it's not just sex. That just happens to be the example that he's using here today.
He's eating.
Absolutely.
It's if you eat only junk food, it's not good for you.
No. A little bit of,
cake.
A little bit of cake. It's a good thing, but you don't want to eat the whole cake. You would be sick.
Yeah.
Everything, moderation. That virtue of temperance, prudence, moderation, justice, balancing the cardinal virtues are cardinal virtues because they order all of the other virtues in our lives. They keep things in their balance.
If all you ate was your favorite slice of cake for the rest of your life, and that was the only food you were able to eat, you'd get sick of it.
You would get sick of it, and you'd be living on sugar, and it would be
the health repercussions.
your body would fall apart. And
Even just the enjoyment of it, you would lose the enjoyment of it.
Yeah. You would. So there's use them in their proper way, their proper place, their proper. So it really, the pleasures require education. That we need to learn what love is. We need to learn how to eat. We need to learn how to sleep well. I mean, we need to learn these. You would think that it's like that they just because we feel these things that they come natural. We feel a lot of things, and some of the things we feel aren't proper. Because we're sinful human beings. And here's the thing. Original sin has deformed us all in some way. That we are all, there's something bruised, there's something wrong within us. Even though we're redeemed in baptism, the wound of original sin is still there. And so sometimes I feel things that are not good. And I want things that are not good because it speaks to the broken part of me.
But you are seeing, so in college, my philosophy professor always said, why do you sin? Because it seems like a good idea. You are seeking a good in choosing that. It's like, oh, cake is really good. I'm going to eat the whole thing. Well, you thought the cake was good, and so you were choosing that. You weren't looking at the consequences.
Right.
And anytime we sin, if we were to look at the consequences, we wouldn't sin. I've been told that purgatory a lot of times is some of that stripping away is you get to see the consequences of your sin.
Yeah.
And that will be very painful, and it's going to really stink.
Yeah.
But then you are coming to grips with the reality of what
really was happening. Mm-hmm. What was real in that moment. I really do think that there are very few people who desire to be evil, wicked, bad, whatever. There's villains are not villains in the sense that people want to do the right thing and they want to do a good thing, but so they intend good, but the thing is not good. Mm-hmm. And that's what gets it all messed up. So I may want to help, and I think I'm helping. This is where a codependent relationship comes into play, because the person wants to help the one with the addiction, and I want to help by supporting, by lifting them up, by giving them the benefit of the doubt, by coddling them, whatever. And what I really need to do is the thing that doesn't feel like help. I need to draw the line. Right. I need to stop the checkbook. I need to close the door and lock it. I need to do the tough love. Even though that doesn't feel good, it is good. Yeah. And so just because something feels right or feels good doesn't make it right or make it good.
And I think that's a great example of doing something good, feeling like it's good. Even perspective-wise, you are trying to help. Yeah. You want to help. I'm trying to help. But am I enabling? Right. And then I'm not helping because I'm enabling. There's a whole other word for that we use, in fact. So, the devil wants to misuse God's pleasure. To get a man's soul and give him nothing in return is what gladdens the evil one. And that's the lure of temptation. That temptation always seems like it's going to give you something. Mm-hmm. Like if I do this thing, I will be satisfied. I will be happy. And then when I do this thing, the ground falls out from underneath of it, and I'm not happy, and I'm not satisfied, and I'm left now wanting. An ever-increasing craving for an ever-diminishing pleasure is the formula. This is anybody who has been addicted to pornography. This, and there's all sorts of studies now on this as it's become an increasing problem in our society with the age of the internet and the ready at handness of pornographic materials. Is that you will constantly be seeking more. That the brain is wired. Once it finds something it likes,
it wants to find that again, but the same thing is no longer going to satisfy. I need to find something similar but a little different. And so I got to keep looking, or I got to keep upping the ante. If I'm a drug addict, the dosage is not going to, I need more to achieve the same level of high. And so the more I take, it creates this chasm within me.
Right. I was going to bring up the drug addictions, where it's your body adjusts and gets used to whatever dosage you were using.
Right.
And so you have to get something that's stronger or more, and it just...
Yep. I need a harder drug. I need harder pornography. I need more. So then the real stuff no longer satisfies. Real sexual intimacy then, many men, primarily men, struggle with this more than women, but women also do. But many people who struggle with pornography, it damages their real relations and their real sexual intimacy because they've taught themselves to crave something in a fantasy world that cannot be, that is not in the real world. It doesn't exist. It's all made up. And so then I can no longer be satisfied with what's real. I only can be satisfied with what's virtual, and it's not real.
It's not real.
And so I'll never be satisfied. I mean, there's the destructive logic of it. So, that's one of the horrible things about any sin, but particularly pornography, is you cannot unsee it. You cannot untaste the apple. Once you have eaten of the forbidden fruit, you can never forget what it tastes like. And even if you never eat it again, the memory of it will always be in the back of your head. And that's the nefariousness of something like pornography or any sin, that once we have allowed ourselves to do it, it remains a memory and will always be calling us back.
Well, and that's why Adam and Eve, they could not go back.
Could not go back. And even more to the point, sin that is done togetherness compounds it all the more. And so that, I think, is why even it was bad enough that we see Eve giving into the temptation, but when Adam joined her in that sin, it compounded it and made it seem more right. I mean, that's why when you're doing a bad thing, you're trying to find someone to do it with you. Usually, because you want to feel that it's not so bad.
Right.
If someone else is doing this too, then it locks me in. It kind of creates that lock. So I mean, sin is so the lie of temptation. So we always want to keep knowledge of anything out of the patient's mind. Do not let him know what he is doing. Don't let him really know that he's looking for a scapegoat, as it were. It's yeah. So he goes through and he kind of talks about that, and he gives some examples on how you can kind of delve into the trough and even take some of these Christian things and twist them against him. The moderation in all things. We talked about the Via Media the other day, to stay out of the extremes. So the evil one now says, oh, well, let's use that principle when it comes to God. Get your person to believe that even God should be moderated. That you don't want to be too devoted to God. You don't want to be too close to God. Stay in a safe middle zone with God.
A moderated religion is as good for us as no religion at all, and more amusing.
Yeah. Yes, because it's hypocritical. A moderated religion. If you are Catholic, but do not live the Catholic life and practice it and pray it and engage in charity and all of that, then it's an amusing little thing that the evil one has gotten a victory from. That we need to be all in. You need to be all in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the thing. I'm either all in or I'm not. I don't know that there is this middle ground. He concludes here, keep in your patient's mind keep off his mind the antithesis between true and false. Always keep him in the shadowy expressions that it was just a phase. Don't really try to find what is really real and what is not real. Just kind of always keep it in this gray zone where I can't quite put my finger on it. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know if I ever sinned. I don't really know if I ever did a good thing. I don't really know. Always question marks. Question. And don't forget the blessed word adolescent. You're not a child where there was innocence. And you're not an adult where there is maturity. You're in this gray phase in between where everything is doing this. So if we can keep the person spiritually a teenager, that's great. Because they're just going to chase after the next party. And they're never going to mature.
Yeah.
Whew! What title did you give that chapter, Jonathan?
Beware, Revelation 3:16. So because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spit you out of my mouth. Be on fire.
That is one of my favorite passages, that when the Lord talks about throwing up. You're either got to be hot or cold, because if you're lukewarm, that is you have to make a decision. Stand on one side of the line or the other. Don't be this thing in the middle. It's disgusting. I titled mine, Exploiting the Bottom of the Barrel. That the trough is where God will do his greatest work, but if we're not careful, the evil one will sneak in there and snatch us away.
Because that's where we're most vulnerable for growth.
Vulnerability is where spirituality happens. It's okay to be vulnerable, but you have to be protected.
Because the devil will exploit it.
So how do you protect your vulnerability? You surround yourself with good and holy people. You surround yourself with good and holy habits. You have an open and honest relationship with God and with others in your life. I think those are probably the biggest things. That peer pressure works to pull us down the wrong path, but it's also great in keeping us on the right path.
For sure.
So look at your friends. Look at your family. Are these people who keep me where I need to be? And if not, what do I do to influence and to change that?
Right.
Because if we're going to be vulnerable and live real life, we have to protect it. Not put walls up, but protect it with something that is good and holy and pure.
Amen.
Amen to that. It's time to go.
Bye.
Have a great day. Ciao.